Welcome, my name's Todd from Alarm Control, and today we're going to step through the process of setting up a home theatre receiver. When setting up a home theatre receiver, the first thing you do is add your sources. So in today's example, we're going to add a source from our own personal library, a source from the built-in Alarm template library, as well as a third-party media streamer, and a tuner for our AVR. Now to add an IR source from our library, we right click, we go down to add new custom source, and we add a blank custom source. Once this custom source has been added, we simply right click on that source and we go down to import layout and codes from file. Once we do this, we browse to the folder where our source is. We select Apple TV in this example and select open. This will now import this source into the system. So once the source has been imported into the system, we simply name it. We open it up and allocate the appropriate IR port. We set our tuning type. So in this case with Apple TV, we have no TV icons, so we're going to set that to none. And we can also go through and review our layout if needed. Now that we've added our own custom source, next we're going to import one from our IR template library. To do this, we right click on sources. We go down and add a new IR library source. We select a manufacturer. So in this case, let's select Denon. We'll select a Blu-ray player and all models. And we'll rename this source as Blu-ray and select OK. Now once this source has been added, all we need to do is define the IR port we're going to use, the tuning type if the tuning type is needed, and if there are discrete on and off codes for this device, we can also enable power management. Now from here we can actually open up our template source and go to large format, and we can also edit this interface if needed. Now we're going to import a third-party media streamer. So in this case, we're going to import a Bluesound player. So to do that, we simply go down to our Add New Generic Media Source. We select our Bluos Media Renderer. We enter the IP address of that player and select Apply. Now once that source has been applied, we should have a status of OK and we're ready to move on. The next source we're going to add is the internal tuner of our AVR. So under Sources, we right click, we go to Add New Tuner, and in today's example we're going to be controlling a Yamaha AVR. So we'll go through our list and find the appropriate Yamaha AVR option, which will be our internal AM/FM tuner. And we'll just call this one Tuner. Now that we've added our sources, we're going to add our video display. So in today's example, we're going to import a Sony TV driver. To add our video display, we right click on Video Displays. We scroll down to Sony. We're going to call it our theatre and select OK. Once our Sony IP driver has been added, all we need to do is enter our IP address for the TV and select Apply. Now that we've added our display, we now have to add our communication device for our AVR. So to do this, we right click on our communication device and add a new communication device. Now in today's example, we're using a Yamaha AVR via IP, so we'll select Yamaha YNCA Ethernet. We'll call it Theatre. We'll now add the static IP address of our AVR. Now that we've added our communication device, we now have to add our zone controller. So we simply right click on zone controllers and add a new zone controller. And we select the AVR that we're going to use in our project. So if we scroll to the bottom for Yamaha, and we'll find our RXA 870 and select OK. Now that we've added our AVR, we have to apply our sources. So to do this, we open up our Sources tab and we select the first input where our source is going to be connected to. So in our example today, under HDMI 1, we're going to add our Apple TV. We'll scroll down to Sources, select Brands, and select Apple TV. HDMI 2 is going to have our Blu-ray player. On the audio side, Audio 1 is going to be the input from our display. So we'll select that and we'll add our Sony TV and we'll call it TV. We'll also select an appropriate icon. The Audio 2 is going to be our Bluesound player. We'll call that Music. And last of all, we're going to add our tuner. So we go to find our tuner that we added earlier. And under color, now that we've added our sources, we can also go through and remove any sources that we don't need. So in the case of the Yamaha AVR driver, it brings in all these additional sources. So the quickest way to remove that is to simply go down to our Yamaha music player and simply delete those out. Now once we've deleted those sources out, we go to our Zones tab and we can name our zones. So in this example, our main zone is going to be our home theatre. And our second zone might be a pool area or an outdoor area. So let's call it Outdoors. Now that we've named our zones, our next step is to assign the display to the zone. So for our theatre, we go to Display 1 and we select our Theatre TV. And now we define whether we want the display to turn on or off and what input it needs to switch to when the appropriate source is selected in our viewer. So the first one is our tuner, which we want the display to turn off on. For Apple TV, we want the display to turn on. Blu-ray, we want the display to turn on. And TV, we want the display to turn on. And for our music player, we want the display to turn off. Our next step is to assign the inputs. So for Apple TV, that will be the input that the AVR is connected to on our display, which will be HDMI 1. The same will apply for our Blu-ray player because these are directly connected to our AVR. The next one, which is our TV or the internal tuner of our display, we want to select TV as the input, and then we apply those. Our next step is to arrange where our sources are going to be located on our viewer. So in this instance, we want our audio sources to be at the bottom of the list. So to do that, we simply right-click on our tuner and we start moving it down the order. And we'll add the tuner to the bottom. Now that's done, that's completed our programming for our home theatre. So if we were to now go to our viewer, we can select our Media tab and you'll see the two zones that we've created. And if we select Theatre, we'll have our tuner. If we select Apple TV, there's our source that we imported from our personal library. We select Blu-ray, which is the user interface from our built-in template library. We have our TV, which is our default Sony IP driver interface. And then we have our music, which is our music player. From this interface, this will allow us to browse TuneIn, Tidal, and other services, and give us full metadata feedback. This concludes today's training, and thank you for your time.